Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to class today. We're going to talk about internships. So, nice fun topic. So I do have a guest presenter with me, and I'm going to let her do a little intro to start off.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Jones. I am the Director of Recruiting, and I oversee all of the internship programs for a company called Home Advisor, which is based here in Denver, and our sister company, Angie's List, which is based out of Indianapolis. Have any of you heard of our business before? Maybe seen some ads? A few of you? Okay, great. So we help homeowners find contractors for home improvement and home maintenance projects, and we do all of that through our technology. So a lot of my feedback and advice today will have a technology industry bent to it, just to give you a little bit of a heads up on that. But we do hire across the board in terms of technologists, marketing, finance, accounting, business development, sales, really the whole spectrum. So.
All right. So she could be a really great connection for you. And if you're still looking for internships, which most of you probably are for next summer, come talk to her after class. So how many of you in here have done internships before? Just so we kind of know. Okay. How many have something lined up for next summer? Okay. Don't feel you're not behind if you don't. It's very early to start recruiting.
Not yet.
Some industries, as we'll talk about, do recruit really early. So things like banking, accounting, consulting, they're already recruiting for next summer. So if you're interested in that type of career path, I would try to get on some stuff right now. But let's talk a little bit more about internships in general, starting off with the benefits behind them. So internships can really help you to clarify your career goals. You might have an idea of what you want to do, or you might have selected a major. You think like, oh, my marketing classes are really interesting, or I'm really good at accounting, so I'm going to stick with that. But I don't know exactly what I want to do with those majors. So it can help you clarify exactly what you want to do. It can also help you prototype some careers. So we talked about prototyping before a little bit, but it's basically trying stuff out. Trying stuff out and either succeeding or maybe trying stuff out and failing or not liking it, and that's totally fine too. This is your opportunity to do that. When you're a student, that's the time to try stuff out and figure out what you don't like along with what you do like. It makes you competitive. So it gives you a little bit of an edge. If you're applying to something and you've got an internship and the other person that they're interviewing hasn't had internship experience, you're going to stand out because you've actually worked in a business setting. You have some understanding of what the business world actually looks like, not just from classes, but from real world experience. Another thing is it can help you refine your skills and enhance your education as well. So you learn a lot of stuff in your classes and a lot of theory and a lot of skills and technical skills, but this helps you apply them. This helps you see, okay, I'm learning all this stuff in classes, but here's how it looks in practice. And then vice versa, when you're working in an internship and then you're taking a class and you're starting to talk about something in class, you can say, oh, I have some experience from my internship. Let me offer that during class. So it kind of, they both, it's a mutually beneficial thing. Finding a job. So a lot of internships can lead to full-time jobs, especially if you're doing one between junior and senior year and that company says, hey, we want to keep you on for next year. That's awesome because then you already have a job lined up for after you graduate. Not every company does that and not every internship will lead to that, but it's possible and it's pretty common. And then earning academic credit. So you can get credit for doing internships. And come talk to us if you have questions about that. Anything to add?
Absolutely. I have a personal story about why an internship is a good thing for you to add to your resume early on. My undergraduate degree is actually in biology, and I was going to be a doctor. I was ready. That's what I was going to do. And then my junior year, I went and spent some time in a hospital and realized I don't actually want to work in a hospital. It's not going to work out for me. Not the hours I wanted to keep. It didn't really align with any of the lifestyle that I wanted to have and the family choices I wanted to make and things along those lines. And I had to figure out a new plan during kind of the end of my junior year and my senior year of college. Luckily, I'd been working in undergraduate admissions as a tour guide and recruiting students, and I got a job as an admissions counselor at another school. Did that for a little while, moved back to Denver, and then found a job with a staffing agency, and my recruiting career took off. Something I had never even heard of, never even explored as an option for me, became a really great career fit. kind of thanks to an internship, but ultimately it saved me a lot of money and a lot of time in my life, not going to medical school, because if I had, I ultimately would have probably not been very happy with career choices.
All right, thank you. Okay, so getting into what is most important to you personally. When you're starting to look at career paths, when you're starting to look into companies and look at different internships and different opportunities in that way, these are a few things that you definitely want to consider. There's some things that are up here that we'll talk about that aren't on this, but these are kind of the most common things that we hear people talk about when they're considering different careers or different internships. Sometimes we get really caught up in job title or the company itself or the salary or the location, like I must stay in Denver or I must move to New York. So think about kind of your top 3 things or the things that would make you stay in a job versus just apply. So what I mean by that is you might see a job application for something at Google and it sounds really awesome and you apply and you get the job and you're in it and then you're like, okay, it looked really great on paper. I don't like this. I don't want to stay. So it's kind of the difference between something looking really good on paper and something that you actually will enjoy. And maybe some of you would really enjoy that job with Google, but it's really a personal thing, and figuring out kind of your values and where they align with the career path that you're pursuing is important. Anything to add there?
Yeah, a couple of circles I would actually add to this list. Not just companies, because we tend to gravitate toward the companies that we hear about, we have the brand recognition for. But think about industries. If you really like Google or you really like Amazon, what are those industries that they are part of? They're tech companies or marketplace companies. And in Denver, we have a really rich startup community. So we have a lot of companies that nobody has ever heard of because only 30 people work there, but they have the same kind of idea. They're a marketplace, they're a tech company, they're doing really cool and innovative things. And they might be a really good company fit for you, and you never even realize they were there. So I would also add industries to this list in terms of things that are interesting to you. And then as you get into your career, people become very important. You spend a lot of time at work, more time than you spend at home, awake at least. And the people that you go to work with, it's really important, at least for me and for most people I talk to genuinely like the people that you go to work with every day. So if you walk into a place and you interview with them and you do not like anyone you meet, you probably shouldn't take that job, just because you really won't like it there if you don't like the people that you're working with.
Thank you. Okay, so you all have a couple of handouts. One of them says job and internship search strategy, and it's got like a checklist. Turn that over so it's a blank piece of paper. And take out a pen or pencil, whatever you want to write with. So I'm going to ask you to think deeply here about your work view and your life view. We're going to start with the work view. So use the top half of this page for this. Think about, why do we work? What is work for? What defines good work? What does work mean? How does work relate to society? So this is a personal thing for you. No one else is going to read this. You don't have to write what the person next to you writes or what you think your parents would want you to write or what your professors would tell you to write or what I would tell you to write. Think about this from a personal standpoint. You can draw pictures, you can do charts, however your brain works. So take a second and think about this and write a few sentences on your work view. Okay, we're going to move to the next one. On the lower half of that paper, you're going to write about your life view. So this one's even deeper, I guess you could say. So I'm going to put up a prompt for that one as well. And same thing, just write a few sentences on these prompts. So why are we here? Meaning, purpose of life, relationship between the individual and others, good versus evil. Does a higher power have an impact on your life? That kind of thing. So think about your life view. Okay, you already wrote your work view. Now you're thinking a little bit more broader and thinking about your life view. All right, let's come on back in. So hopefully you were able to brainstorm a few things for each of these. Take a second and look at your two descriptions, your work view and your life view. Look at ways that they complement one another, so some themes that you see between the two that are kind of overlapping or places that they kind of make sense and go together. Look at places where they might conflict. Look at places where your view of life and work maybe don't quite line up. And then think about how this might affect your happiness in your future career path. So take a second, think about these things, and then turn to a partner or someone nearby. You don't have to share super personal things about your work view and life view, but maybe just, did they align? Did they not? How might that affect your choice in work? So go ahead and do that. All right, let's bring it back in. So I'm going to have everyone put technology away for a second so phones and laptops can go away. We'll have you take them out in a little bit to participate in some polls, which will be fun. But for now, put all technology away and we'll pay attention up here. All right, so getting into your actual, well, actually, I'm going to ask if you have anything to add to this one first.
So this is a really interesting exercise. Before Tony and I started talking about this, I had never even really thought about this from my perspective, but this is a great exercise. Right now, most of you don't have very much work experience, so maybe you haven't fully developed your work view. But as you get further into your career, if you ever find yourself not really excited about the work that you're doing, this is actually a really interesting balance to look at, maybe a great workshop or exercise to go through and think about, why am I not really engaged in the work that I'm doing right now? Is there some kind of conflict between my work view and my life view that we need to work out, and I need to look at a new place for engagement to make that happen? And you'll find that over time, your balance and what's important to you will shift. Sometimes things that are in your life are really important to you at that point in time, and that's what you'll need to focus on. Sometimes work is what you want to focus on and achieving work goals, and that'll fluctuate back and forth over time, and it could fluctuate from job to job. It could fluctuate within the course of a year. But this is a really interesting exercise I found to kind of really do some self-evaluation, especially if you're looking at making a career change, or maybe as you're looking at thinking about a new company or something along, or a new job within your company. This could be a really interesting exercise to walk through.
Thank you. Okay, so when you're actually searching for internships, it's important to have a plan. And everyone's plan is going to look a little bit different. You have a handout in front of you that has a whole checklist of things that you should be doing in your internship search. So the reason it's important to have a plan is it's really easy to become just reactive in your internship search and sit at home and just react to things that are out there, react to job postings that you see, and become kind of a passive participant in your job search instead of being proactive and going out there and going to career fairs and going to meet and greets and networking with alumni and talking to recruiters when they come to class and taking advantage of opportunities to go above and beyond, rather than being that passive, I'm just going to send out resumes and hopefully something lands. So it's important to have that plan for you and for yourself, and we can help you with that if you come talk to us. Anything to add to that one?
If you don't have a real search plan or an idea as to what you're after, it can actually start to reflect on you a little bit poorly. If you apply for every internship that I have in marketing, I'm probably not going to talk to you because I don't know what you really want and what you're after. I might talk to you if you have a really interesting other internship in a different area, but if you go and apply for all 10 internships that I have posted in marketing, I'm going to have a couple of questions for you when we get on the phone. So really, having a plan, understanding the types of companies you're interested in, the types of roles or the type of experience you want to gain out of an internship are all really important. And having a search plan will help you stay on track so that you're not just applying willy-nilly for anything that's out there, and so that you'll have a really direct answer when I ask. Pro tip right here, if you apply for a job with me, the first question I'm going to ask you is, why did you apply for this internship? And having a search plan will help you have a really good answer for that particular question.
Thank you. Okay, so that kind of segues really well into this. So being too flexible can be just as bad as being too picky. So we encounter something sometimes called choice overload when we're just way, way too open-minded and there's too many options out there, there's too many decisions to make, so we just don't do anything. And you kind of freeze up and you just don't apply to anything. And it can be kind of overwhelming if you don't have some kind of direction. So an example that I like to give for this, like in real life, if you had a friend coming to visit you and that friend said, hey, I'm looking for a restaurant to go to in Colorado, I don't know, just somewhere good, you'd be like, okay, well, there's tons of good restaurants here. If they said, oh, well, I want to go to somewhere with Mexican food, I really like Mexican food, you could say, okay, well, there's a few, there's like some in, Boulder, Fort Collins, Denver, like give me a little more. If they said, I want a Mexican restaurant in downtown Denver that has like the best tacos, the best margaritas in town, then you might have a clearer picture of where you could tell them to go and give them more direction. Okay, so if you're going to career fairs or going to your family connections or your professors or whoever is helping you in your search, or us, and saying, I'm open to anything, I just need work experience. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're looking, but that doesn't, all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay, there's so many directions you could go. But if you come to me and say, I'm really interested in potentially consulting and investment banking, then that can give me a little direction. Or, I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I really like this class that I took related to supply chain or whatever it is. That gives me direction in helping you. So when you're going to those type of events, when you're starting to network, when you're looking for things online, be open-minded. You never know. Trying new things is awesome, but having some direction is really helpful. Anything to add?
I think another easy one to answer or to add to your search criteria could be location, right? If you know you have housing in Denver and you want to stay in Denver for the summer, then you've narrowed your location to Denver. Maybe you're not from Denver, so you can stay with your parents, and so you can stay wherever your parents live. And that gives you a couple of smaller areas to target and look into. If you don't have a car, you know that you need to be able to get somewhere where you have public transportation. These are all really good filters to help narrow your search down so that you're not just going out to Indeed or or LinkedIn and saying, I want an internship in the United States, because you'll get 90,000 different results. So narrowing, even by those really what seem big filters, could help you a lot.
Right. Okay, so we're going to move into another activity. The other handout that I gave you, on one side it talks about Odyssey planning. So take that sheet out, and then your writing utensil, wherever that went. And you're going to write out 3 different ideas for internships or career paths, industries that you'd be interested in pursuing. So the first one should be an internship that kind of makes sense with your major or the current plan, something that you're kind of going towards right now. The second one will be an internship that you would do if the first option was non-existent anymore. Like they found robots and AI, they can all do that job now, so that one doesn't exist. And then the last one is an internship you would do if money was no object, if there was no judgment, if you could just do anything that you wanted in the business world or maybe outside of the business world. So that would be that last one. So you can draw pictures, you can write stuff out, you can make charts with this one again. So come up with 3 different internships or kind of career path ideas. Okay, so I'm not going to make you share these with one another right this second, but just hang on to them. We'll come back to them in a little bit. If you didn't finish, you can finish it in a little bit later. Okay, so we're going to move on to a slide that is terrible, but it's here to illustrate something. So I'm going to explain what this actually looks like, or what this actually is saying. Pretty much the way a typical job hunter or internship hunter prefers to look for a job, or the easy way to do it, is the flip side, the complete opposite of the way that employers like to find candidates. So what I mean by that is a student or a candidate looking for a job or internship, it's easiest, honestly, to sit at home and apply with your LinkedIn profile and send out resumes, right? It's just easier. It's less work. You don't have to go out and talk to people. You're just sending stuff out, sending emails, or applying through Pioneer Careers or wherever. It's a lot more work to be going to career events and meeting people in person and going out and trying to find contacts in companies. But that's how employers like to hire candidates. So it's much more likely that you're going to get hired if you meet someone at a career fair, or if you get an internal referral from an alum that works there that you happen to have coffee with or have a connection with, or someone that you know from the company internally, maybe from a career fair that you've built a relationship with, rather than them getting some random resume online and saying, okay, well, I've never met this person. They look good on paper, but that's kind of risky. If I already met this other person, I met in person at an event, and they were great. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
This is a really great visual. It is hard to read some of it, but it is a great visual. Ultimately, I'm going to take the word of somebody that I work with or that I know personally when I'm hiring over somebody I just have never seen and is really just a piece of paper to me. So do everything you can to get ingrained into a company that you're trying to target for an internship or for a job in the future, because it really will kind of, if you can get to this middle stage here, stage 3 or 4, or I guess it's 2, 3, or 4, 5, that's really going to be a great place for you in terms of the success to land a particular position.
Okay. So what we're saying is we want you to avoid the resume black hole. When you send in a resume online, it's going out there. You're never really sure if a real person is ever even going to see it. We've talked about applicant tracking systems. Sometimes your resume and cover letter are read by a computer before they even get to a person, and sometimes they're kicked out before that person even sees them. So that's what that resume black hole is. Just submitting resumes online depends on where you look, the statistic, but tends to yield anywhere between a 4 to 24% response rate. That's not great. That's a lot more resumes that you have to submit to get a response than if you're doing networking. So networking increases your success rate to from 33 to 70%. That's a huge jump. That's a huge increase. So networking is always going to be the best way to find a job, at least in this job market today. So take advantage of the opportunities that we provide you on campus and the alumni network and our awesome employers that we have coming. And what would you like to add there?
Just continue to reach out. Like a networking doesn't have to be a formal networking event or a business professional event. It could be an informational interview. It could be a friend of a friend. It could be a friend of your dad. It could be literally anybody that has the role or the type of job you think that you want. And you can, if you build a relationship with them, then a lot of times they're willing to put their name on you and say, yes, this person seems like someone we should talk to.
Thank you. Okay, so your search plan that we've talked about before, there's 2 sides to it. There's the self-marketing side, and then there's the targeted networking or strategic networking side that we're going to talk about. So if you think about yourself as a brand or as a company, for example, if you were Coca-Cola, these are all things associated with that brand. So the things like the name on the bottle or Christmas time or the open happiness slogan, that's all things that are related to this brand. So your personal brand is represented by your interview, your elevator pitch, things on your resume, things on your LinkedIn, your cover letters. Those should be the things that represent you and your brand, your company. So think of yourself as something that you are marketing, and all of these things should align with that brand. Anything to add there?
No, I think all of these should be tied together in that they have a very consistent and genuine voice. The person that you put forth in a professional environment should be the person that you are outside of work as well.
Okay, so when we talk about networking, sometimes when we think about things that we should be doing, we should be networking. So I'm going to go to this career fair and walk around a little bit, maybe talk to a couple people, or I'm going to, reach out to this one alum. They don't really do anything that I'm interested in, but I know I'm supposed to be talking to people, so they're easy to connect with. I'm going to do that. That's great. It's a step, but being strategic is going to give you a much more efficient way of finding those positions that you're actually interested in. So when you're going to career fairs, doing research ahead of time, looking up the employers, figuring out which ones actually have jobs that I'm interested in, which ones companies' values actually align with what I want to do or what I believe, which alums are actually doing jobs that I'm interested in, which professional associations are really related to what I want to do. On LinkedIn, did I just build a profile and let it sit there, or did I actually become involved on the platform and join groups and become active there? So yes, it's important to network, but make sure you're doing the right kind of networking and using your time well when you are networking.
A couple of additional bubbles that I would add up there would be your classmates. because you never know where your classmates are going to end up in their career and where they could maybe potentially take you with them, or bring you on board in a company that they're working on. And then when you get into an internship, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, is your internship cohort and building relationships with the people that are interning and having a similar life experience with you. So any athletic teams that you're a part of, any clubs that you're a part of, this is your network. These are the people that you build relationships with that ultimately could lead to other leads in the future for your career.
Awesome. Okay, so we've talked about informational interviews in this class a little bit, and then we've mentioned them already a little bit. But keep in mind, there's two purposes. One purpose is educational. So actually finding out about that person's life, about what they do, about how they got there, what school did they have to go to, what level of certification did they have to get, what do they love about their job, what do they hate about their job, what did they love about their past company, why did they leave, all of that kind of stuff. But the other purpose is to build a relationship. Maybe you find a mentor from doing that type of thing. Maybe they can refer you to their friends who also work in the industry, and they can be of help to you. Remember to be thankful and show gratitude and send a thank you email after you do those informational interviews or those networking meetings. And then you can find connections through Pioneer Connect and LinkedIn. There's more on Canvas about that. If you're ever having trouble finding people to network with, come talk to us and we can help you with that. But anything you want to mention about these?
People love to talk about themselves, so they will be more than happy to generally accept your informational interview request if you go to them and kind of give them the reasoning why you want to talk to them, especially if it's somebody who's doing the work that you're doing. And you go approach it from hey, I see that you're a financial analyst. I'm really excited. I'm studying finance right now at DU, and I would love to learn a little bit more about what your day-to-day looks like so that I can see if that's really the career path that I want to go down. If you buy them a cup of coffee or you meet them for a cup of coffee, you don't have to buy them a cup of coffee. Or if you're of age, a drink. These are good places to have a nice casual conversation, and people, like I said, really do love to talk about themselves. As a recruiter, I'm probably not your best person to have an informational interview with unless you want to learn about HR or recruiting. Or if you just want to generally know about my company, then yes, let's network. I will give you an informational interview. I have no problem with that. But if you want to learn about the day-to-day of what it's like to be an analyst or in marketing, I'm not the best person to tell you the answers to your questions. I am not a marketer. I kind of am. But I'm not doing the marketing that our teams are doing. I'm not doing financial analysis. I can give you the 10,000-foot view, but I can't give you the nitty-gritty of what's good, what's bad, what you should avoid, or really be the key network person for future career leads.
All right. So I'm going to have you take your phones or your laptop back out and go to slido.com, event code BUS2099. Okay. And then once we get that up, hopefully it's working. Okay, it should be working. So, what are some internships that you all wrote down on that paper? This is anonymous. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you, I'm not going to call you out when you type stuff in. But start typing in some of those ideas you came up with for internships or career paths that you want to follow, just to see kind of what the consensus is in the room and the variation in the room. Brand identity, good. A bakery, awesome. Financial rep, sports, creative marketing, nonprofit, analytics, hedge fund, consulting, work at Warner Brothers, private equity, sports analytics, biotech, awesome. These are all great. Intern with Sephora, cool. Human resources.
Whoever's pandering to me, I love it. Thank you.
All right. These are some good, yes, government. Awesome. Okay. So these are some good ideas. All right. So we're going to go to the next question. All right. So I'm going to pick one of those internships that I saw up there.
I like the sports and entertainment marketing.
You're reading my mind. Okay. Sports and entertainment marketing. I saw that, or a theme, or sports and entertainment analytics. Sometimes they kind of overlap. What are some ideas if that was something that you were going to go try to explore? Let's help that person out, whoever it is. You don't have to raise your hand, but help your classmate out by giving them some ideas about go to sport. Yeah, I mean, that's.
You should probably like sports if you want to get into sports and
yes.
entertainment.
What are some ideas? Find experienced people in the field. Look on the website for professional sports teams in the area. So a lot of times we get stuck on like the major sports teams, but starting with some of the smaller ones. Meet with career services, talk to a DU coach. Yep. Connect with reps from Mile High or Coors Field. Career fairs. Try to find a referral. Rapids or Mammoth. Yep. Those are kind of those like smaller teams. Good. Hockey team.
I like the one of starting with the DU hockey team.
Yeah. Cool. High school to professional, yes. Okay, so those are all great ideas. I want you all to look at your plans and come up with one, maybe two things. Start with one for each of those plans, one next step forward. So some ideas that I came up with, just some examples. You could attend a career fair and target the finance companies. That's easy. Do an informational interview with a senior in BIA. Again, using your peers, using your classmates. If you're a first or second year student or even a junior and you're like, I still don't really understand what careers I can do with BIA, talk to a senior who might have had an internship last summer and they can tell you what they did. Sign up for a mock interview with us. So different industries have different types of interviews, different types of interview questions. We know some of those things, and so we can help train you for that industry and that type of interview. So just some ideas. So take a second and come up with the next step for each of those internships as far as finding them, and then assign a realistic due date. Keeping in mind that April or May probably isn't a good due date for you because most companies, not most, a lot of companies are already recruiting. We're going to keep getting opportunities and more companies coming to campus through winter quarter. But if you're just coming to this and you show up in my office in April and you're freaking out because you don't have an internship yet, you don't want to be in that position, okay? So realistic due dates. So things that are maybe over winter break, you're looking at internships, some things that are a little bit closer. So take a second and do that. Come up with next steps and due dates. Okay, so I won't make you share, I won't make you do anything, but that's just for you to take with you so you have some action steps coming out of this class session. Okay, looking at your actual search. Once you're in the thick of your search, these are some things you want to evaluate. So let's say you're sending out applications and you've sent out like 30, 40 applications and you have not heard anything back yet. That's an issue. Come talk to us about that. There's probably something in your resume or your cover letter, or maybe you're targeting the wrong companies, or you're not following up with them after you apply, or you're not finding that internal contact who you can address your cover letter to, or whatever those little tweaks might be. That's maybe where you're getting stuck. If you're getting a bunch of phone interviews, so you're hearing back, you're getting phone interviews or video interviews, and you're not moving forward to that in-person piece, there's probably something we need to practice with your phone or video interview. Come talk to us about that. If you're getting interviews and in-person interviews and you're not getting any offers, like you keep going on interviews, you think they go really well, and then you don't get any offers from them, come talk to us. We'll practice. We'll do some mock interviews. We'll talk about what questions are hard, what questions are easy, and kind of help you with that process. If you end up getting multiple offers, we can help you think through, okay, what's the best choice for me at this point? Ultimately, you have to decide, but we can help you talk you through that. Anything to add there?
I just say, if you get into phone interviews and they're not turning into anything or they're not moving to the next step, ask for feedback. We're going to talk about feedback in a minute, again, within your internship, but talk to your recruiter who you're working with, or talk to the hiring manager if you have a relationship that you've started there, and ask for feedback. I appreciate that you let me know that that you're going forward with someone else. Can you please give me some feedback so I can get better for next time? When somebody asks me that question, I'm more willing to give them feedback and say, listen, rambled and never actually answered a question. It's hard feedback that I have to give sometimes, but especially for interns, I'm really willing to give that because I want you to get better and I want you to land the next phone interview that you have. Just because you didn't work with me doesn't mean that you shouldn't go get a good experience somewhere else.
Great. Okay, so staying organized during your search is super important. These are just a couple quick tips. So save your cover letter and resume as a PDF. So when the person opens it on the other side, it's not in a different version of Word and your formatting gets all messed up and all of that kind of stuff. Save it as a PDF with your name and the date and what it is. Please don't save it as the company name because I've seen it happen where people will save their document for one company and then they'll use it for another company and make some little changes and they forget to change the file name. So don't let that happen to you. And then create saved searches in Pioneer Careers. It saves you time. So when you go in and you change all the filters in Pioneer Careers, to internship, Denver, and then whatever job, function, or industry you're interested in, save that search. So when you go back in, you don't have to redo all your filters every time. And you can also set it up to get emails and alerts when things come in that are related to that search. Anything?
Generally, applicant tracking systems will let you double check before you click submit that you've attached the right file. Make sure you've attached the right file, especially for your cover letter. You've taken the time to write it and get it reviewed and look through it. Make sure that if you send something to HomeAdvisor, it's not addressed to HomeAway. Happens all the time, or to a totally different company that's not even related, or a role that you were applying for a digital marketing internship with me, but you applied for a brand marketing internship with someone else, and you forgot to change the title. If you are when you take the time to personalize, which you should, any cover letter, please make sure that you're saving and uploading the right file because it could ultimately, that attention to detail could ultimately be a detriment to you if you're not careful.
All right. I know this is also kind of hard to see, but this is a good way to stay organized as well. Create a spreadsheet with everything that you've applied to or plan on applying to. Because when you're going through multiple applications, things get jumbled. You forget you applied certain places. You forget what the due date was, who the contact was for that one. So keep track of company name, the title, the contact person, hopefully you have one, the date that's due, the date you submitted it, the date to follow up on it, did you get a phone interview in person? Keep track of all of those things. And when you're talking to people at career fairs or when you meet someone, at a meet and greet or even just, at the grocery store, you meet some random person who works somewhere and you have a good conversation and they're like, hey, you should apply for our internship. Here's my business card. Write down notes on the back of business cards when people hand those to you. Because even though we feel like paper is dying and business cards are dying, they're not. People still have them for the most part. And that's a good place to just make a note to yourself. This is what we talked about. This is what they told me to do. Anything to add here?
I would add one column to your spreadsheet, and it would be a link or a link to a Google Doc where you've copied and pasted the job description into a document or to a file on your desktop. A lot of times I'm going to post a job and then I'm going to take it down and then you're not going to be able to go back to my careers page and look at the job description again. And before every interview, I would suggest you review the job description again and really look at what it is that they're looking for and what they could potentially ask you for interview questions. It's a good key to success. But if you copy and paste just the text into a Google Doc and then link it back to your spreadsheet, all you have to do is click that link and it'll save you time and energy trying to go hunt it back down on their careers page or on Indeed, or it just doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, staying organized during your search. Again, set aside a couple hours each week, depending on how much time you need for your internship search. But think of it almost as a class. So that you have that time set aside. It's really easy to let your job or internship search become something that's on the back burner. You're like, oh, I have this project. I'll work on my search later. Or I have midterms. I'll work on the search later. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. And then it's April or May. And you're like, oh my gosh, I never got to it. So set aside that time now and think of that is your job and internship search time. It also can help alleviate some stress because you're like, okay, I came across this thing. I'm stressed out about my internship search, or I know I need to reach out to this person and network with them. But you have that time set aside. So just say, okay, I know that's going to be my like thing on Tuesday night during those 2 hours that I set aside. I'm going to make sure to get all of that done. Set weekly goals. So when you're in the thick of your search, I would say, and make sure they're actually things you're excited about and wanting to apply for, but I would say apply for maybe 4 to 5 things a week where you're tailoring your documents, you're looking into, hey, do we have any alumni there? But when you're actually in the thick of it, 4 to 5 a week is pretty standard. And maybe you're networking with 1 or 2 people a week. You could add that as a goal and work with us on that. So we can help you set those goals and hold you accountable too, if you want to work with us on that.
You could also set aside blocks of time on your calendar where you know that on Tuesday afternoons you don't have class, and so that's a great time for you to just kind of hold on your calendar for interview blocks. That way when somebody comes to you and says, hey, we're ready to phone interview you, or hey, we want you to come in on site for an interview, you already know that you're going to be fine on Tuesday afternoon because you haven't blocked or added anything else in that time. So it could also be a helpful way to stay on top of being able to schedule interviews.
Awesome. That's a great tip. Okay, so where to actually find internships? You've got a good list of my favorite places to look in front of you. That last little section on your handout talks about some links and some places to look and what they're good for as far as like location and types of jobs. Pioneer Careers looks different than this now, but still utilize it. If you go to the OCI and job listings tab, that's where you're going to find internships that when companies come to us and they say, hey, we want to hire your students, that's where we put them all. So when you come to me or you email me and say something like, hey, I'm looking for an internship in blank, do you know of anything? I'm going to point you here because everything that I know of is in here. Okay. Anything to add to that piece of it?
These are all really great resources. The resources on your list are fantastic. Some additional maybe research tools that I would throw out to the list as well. There's a website called The Muse, themuse.com. It's great. There are jobs available on that site as well, but it's also a great site for researching a company and understanding a little bit about the culture of a particular company. And the same thing goes with glassdoor.com. Glassdoor is actually a crowdsourced site where people can post ratings and reviews of the company, and I don't have any way to control that. I can respond to things, but as a company, they're real, they're unfiltered. And so it gives you a really good picture of what the culture is like and if people actually like working there. But again, it also has a great listing of jobs and internships.
Thank you. That was a good segue into our next slide. So you should be researching companies not only when you get the job, so understanding your hours, where they are, what the commute actually looks like, going through that commute, figuring out, okay, I need to be on time, I need to be punctual, so how long does it really take me to get there in Denver traffic? But research beforehand, too. And we've talked about this already, but talk to companies at career fairs, look at their LinkedIn pages, look at their company websites. They put a lot of time into those. And so look up their values, their mission. If they have a careers page, you can look at that. So take the time to do that before and after the interview. You'd be surprised how many people don't. And you'll stand out if they can tell that you've done your research. Anything else to add?
No, that's a great way to stand out, especially if you don't have a ton of experience yet, is that if you have spent the time to research and understand our company and our industry, it'll give you an advantage over somebody else.
Okay, so when you actually decide to accept an offer, or you have multiple offers and you're trying to figure out which one to take, listen to your gut. Don't listen to, take into account the opinions of others. There's important people in your life that you should listen to and get their opinions, but it ultimately comes down to you and what you are going to enjoy doing and the experiences that you want for that summer or whenever you're doing your internship. And then after you accept the offer, accept your own choice. Okay, a lot of times we give up perfect, or we give up very good to pursue perfect, and perfect doesn't exist, right? So a lot of times we'll get this awesome offer, it's right in front of us, and we're like, but what if something better comes along? If it's something that you're excited about and it comes along early, that's okay. Accept it and be excited about it and figure out how you're going to get the most out of it. We'll talk about professionalism in a little bit, but it's very unprofessional to accept an offer from a company and then go back on it. It really damages your reputation, and then it damages the reputation, believe it or not, of every other Daniel student now and to come after you, because companies remember, oh yeah, that DU student, that's the one that went back on their verbal offer from us, and So we don't want to recruit there anymore. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't just affect you, but anything you want to add?
It also affects me because I have to go back and restart my interview process more than likely, because we've been excited about you, especially if you accept an offer and then you back out later. I have to start all over, and that means that I may end up not getting an intern at all, or we're scrambling at the last minute, and people miss out on a great opportunity because we were late to the game. Personal reputation is also really affected. Where it could impact you later is if you did back out of an offer with us, and then a year later when you're looking for, or 2 years later when you're looking for a new job, even if you don't work with me, there's going to be notes in our system about you, and it'll say, hey, Joe accepted an offer and then he backed out. And that's going to make me really question if we should, or somebody on my team, really question if we should pursue you as a candidate again in the future. So it can be pretty damaging if you don't accept it, if you accept an offer and then back out of it. I'd much rather you not accept an offer right up front if you're not excited about coming to work for us. That's all.
Right. Okay, personal branding. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So this is something I want you to think about, not only all the time, but especially once you actually get that internship and you're working there. Take pride in your work. Finish what you start. Be professional. Be on time, okay? This is a really good time to kind of get that personal brand started and get your reputation started in the workforce. It's a way to start collecting references. So if you're looking for internships for the next summer, or you're looking for full-time jobs at the summer after that, then you have someone to go back and say, hey, will you be my reference? If you don't do a great job at your internship and you're late all the time and you're not organized and you don't get your projects done or whatever it is, you're probably not going to get a great reference from that person or from your manager or your supervisor, whoever it was that you're asking. Anything to add to this?
I would. Your reputation follows you no matter what. So if you walked into an internship and you really didn't apply yourself, you weren't great, but then you go to apply for another job, there's a good chance that somebody that I'm connected to is also now connected to you, or somebody that's in my business is connected to somebody at your business. And whether or not they will admit to it, everybody does what we call back channel references, where I may ask you for your references and say, please tell me who you want me to call. But then I'm also going to figure out how we're connected and ask them what they think of you, and if you're a good worker, if you're a hard worker, if you have a good work, if you come to work on time, what you worked on, all of those things. So it's really important that you put yourself, that you really give your all when you're at the office, even if it's a task that you're not really excited about, because that could lead to future opportunities, because your reputation was really great as a hard worker, and even in a job that wasn't awesome.
Okay, just a little note about email. Stay on top of your emails. Reply to them within 24 hours, even if you don't have an answer, and 24 business hours. Even if you don't have an answer, write back to that person and say, hey, I'm not sure right now, but give me a couple days, I'll get back to you, or whenever. Give them a time frame. No response is a response. It's not an excuse to say, I didn't get that email, or I didn't see it. Check your junk and your spam folders all the time. Make sure things aren't going there that should not be going there, that they're going to the right place. So it's no longer an excuse to say, well, I didn't see your email. I didn't see it, okay? Make a professional email signature. Be descriptive in your subject lines instead of, so if I get an email that just says like BUS 2099, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. If you say like BUS 2099 mock interview assignment due date, and you're wondering when something's due, that I'm much more likely to open that because I'm pretty sure I know what you're asking. If it's BUS 2099, I might put that off for later because I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know what that question's going to be. I'm going to wait a couple hours before I answer that one, or whatever it is. Keep your emails concise. Most people have very limited time to read your messages. And then write emails with excellent grammar, no typos. Even though it's concise, it's not texting, okay? So keep it professional.
couple of points I want to add to that. So your personal email, if you don't have a work-specific one or a more professional one, where you think you can stay on top of it and filter through the spam and the junk, all your shopping emails or whatever else, coupons that I get all the time, right? Then maybe set up a new professional email address just for applying for jobs. That way you don't have all that extra spam and junk coming in. At least it limits it a little bit. And then for concise emails, even though I'm going to recommend that you write your emails as much as you can from your laptop and not from your phone to avoid typos, people are more than likely reading your email on their phone than they are on their laptop or on a desktop. So concise to me means 3 thumb swipes. If I have to swipe more than 3 times on my phone, I'm not reading your whole message. You're going to get probably a half response, or I'm going to put it off for later and not actually respond. So if you're writing out a very long email, maybe send it to yourself first, look at it on your phone and say, oh, this is like 6 swipes. Nobody's going to actually read this. Try and limit it to as many thumb swipes as you can so that when somebody reads it on their phone, they can read it very quickly.
All right, and just to show an example, so this is not an exaggeration. It's not a real email that I've gotten, but this is similar to things that I've gotten before. So even in your communication with professors or people on campus or just pretty much anyone, I'm most likely going to give you a response that's about as long as that. If you actually type out your question and keep it concise, keep it straight to the point, but actually give me some detail and it's written out professionally, it's easy to understand, it's addressed the correct way, there's a sign off that's appropriate, I'm going to be much more likely to give you a detailed response if you ask something like this. And same thing with employers and same thing with colleagues.
So I'm going to add one point that I like about this second email down here, and it's about the fact that there's 2 options for times. You're going to get interview requests, and in those interview requests, it'll say, give us some times when you're available, or here are some times that I'm available. Please let me know what works for you. Please don't respond with one time, because I bet that by the time you respond, that time slot is gone. Look at your calendar and find multiple slots that align or that you would be available. And if you don't find something that exactly aligns, say, I'm not available at any time that you have, but here's some additional options that would work on my side. Will any of them work for you? The multiple time slots just makes it far easier to calendar and figure out when we can actually set up time to talk. A lot of people also use a tool called Calendly. If you've not seen that, it's a great online scheduling tool. But give multiple options if you can't select the exact time on somebody's calendar through a tool like Calendly.
Awesome. Okay, so feedback. This is important, and it's something to consider once you're in your internship, figuring out how you're going to get feedback about your progress and about your work. So talking with your supervisor and even asking questions in the interview about what the feedback process is like. Are you evaluated once throughout your whole internship? Like you're given a project at the beginning and at the end you're told how well you did on it? Are you having weekly meetings with your supervisor? What does that look like? And how do they prefer to communicate? Are they going to be over the phone? Are they going to be just through emails, these written up things? Is it going to be one-on-one appointments with your supervisor? What does that look like? So this type of thing is super important. I'm going to turn over to you.
Be an advocate for yourself when it comes to feedback. I hope that if you work at Home Advisor, your manager will set up a weekly one-on-one without even thinking about it. They will do it, they'll put it on the calendar, and it'll be something that's just set and you are ready to go. But if you get into an internship, Home Advisor or somewhere else, where you don't get that feedback or you don't know how you're doing, advocate for yourself. Set up a one-on-one meeting with your manager or ask for them to set up a one-on-one. Or set expectations at the beginning, as Tony mentioned, of how am I going to be evaluated? Are we going to have meetings on a weekly or bi-weekly basis? Do I have a big project? Do I have to present that to anyone? And really advocate for yourself to get that feedback. And it goes both ways. Give me feedback too. If you're working on something that's not interesting and not exciting, please share that and say, I'd like to take on additional responsibilities and on top of what I have, because I have some other goals that I'd like to work toward. I can't read your mind. If you are working in an internship and you are not getting what you want out of it, you need to advocate for yourself and say, I also would like to learn XYZ. And then I know at Home Advisor, we'll go out and try and find how to get you that experience.
Thank you. Okay, so we talk about networking to find internships, but it's also important to network once you're in that internship. So talking to other interns, developing those relationships, whether that's through extracurricular activities that the company puts on or through your own just developing friendships with them. So things like company happy hours or company picnics or going to sporting events. All the interns might go to that, depending on the size of the company. Network with other departments and colleagues in those other departments, especially if you're interested in potentially multiple areas of a company. Join alumni groups on LinkedIn for that company, and then connect with DU alumni on Pioneer Connect or on LinkedIn, or meet them in the office. You know, DU alums might be really excited to learn there's a DU intern there, and they might be willing to sit down with you and kind of talk about their time at that company. That's a great connection for you to have potentially in a different department. Anything you want to add here?
That intern cohort, I alluded to this earlier, that intern cohort could be a really, really lucrative opportunity for you in the future. You don't know what that other person that you're working with could potentially go out and do. They could start their own company and they need somebody to be their finance right hand, and you could be that person for them. Stay in touch with your the other interns that you work with, whether you connect with them on LinkedIn or Facebook or Snapchat or whatever social media you prefer to work in. Good segue there. Then that's a great way to stay attached to that particular cohort and just stay in touch with what they're doing.
Yeah, and so on your way out of your internship, ask your manager for a letter of recommendation, especially if it went really well. And then keep in touch, because you never know. They might end up switching companies, or they might end up, you go to work somewhere right after school, but then you realize, I really loved that one company I did an internship with. I'm going to touch base with my manager and see if they're still working there, or if there's other opportunities that I could come back and work there. So staying in touch, especially if it was a really good experience, is important.
I have a really awesome example of that just happened. We had an intern last summer. He was a finance analyst for us. He stayed in touch with his manager, and they kind of built a mentoring relationship over the course of the school year. He took a job with another company after graduation, and we were super excited for him. We wanted him to explore and go out. And ultimately, he found out about 3 months in that this was not the right fit for him. The work that they had asked him to do was not the work that he had been sold that he was going to do. And ultimately, he was starting to look around for another job. Turns out we had an opening on his former manager's team, and we were able to bring him back. He had done really great work for us, and because he kept in touch with the manager that he had during his internship, he landed a new position with us, and we were able to bring him back on board and find a really happy home for him again.
Awesome. I love that story. Okay, so we're going to go back to Slido, and we've got some scenarios for you. Let me pull up the right one.
If you've been paying attention, I may have given you some answers. Not on purpose.
Okay, so once you're there, the code should be intern scenarios. And the first question that we're going to ask, hypothetically, you've landed an internship at your dream company. It's awesome. However, you've been asked to make copies multiple times a week, and you're really not that excited about a filing responsibility you were recently given. What should you do? Start networking. I would not quit. Do the filing. Yeah. Ask your manager. Finish what you started. Talk to your supervisors. Suck it up. Do it anyway. Everyone gets to do something they don't like. Yeah.
True story.
Yep. In pretty much every job, there's going to be something you don't like, even your dream job. Do the work with a smile, and then show your coworkers that you're going to do it and not just quit when things get boring. I love that. Speak up. Yes. So I would do a combination of some of these things. Do the work. do it as best as you can, and then say, hey, I'm ready for more. What else can I do? What else can I learn? And if they don't give you anything, then go network with other departments and find out, hey, I'm going to take the initiative to figure out, I'm going to make this project up myself. I see that there's this problem. I'm going to make it up on my own and figure it out and then present it to my manager or whatever it is. So like I said, there's parts of every job that you're not going to like. But if you do that, get it done, do it really well, and then ask for more, that's where you're going to be looked at as the most valuable.
I mentioned this earlier. Feedback. If you don't give feedback back to your team that you're working with, we can't fix the situation. I'm still going to probably have you file and do the copying work because it needs to get done in the business, but I can also look for other projects and see if there's other opportunities to help you expand if you bring it to me. I also joked earlier you should make the best copies of your life because that reputation will follow you. Like I mentioned earlier, if you really sat back and just gave up, that reputation is going to follow you to the next place in your career, whether you realize it or not.
Okay, next one. So this one says, your supervisor has asked you to find a replacement after you're done with your internship. How would you respond to that? Talk to friends in your field who might be interested. Good. Yeah, find them another intern. I'm not done, though. That one's interesting. So if you want to continue, then ask them if you can. Maybe you can stay on in the fall. Maybe they don't realize that you want to stay and help a little bit more. Reach out to peers and friends who might be interested. Good. Use it as an opportunity to evaluate your work. Give references. Good. Okay.
It's not your job to find them a replacement.
Right.
It's their job to find a replacement as well.
Come to us and tell us. So don't feel pressure to find them the next best darn intern you can. You can come to us and we can post it. And so then it'll be available to all students, and then the pressure's off you a little bit.
Also, I hope that before you have to volunteer and say, I want to stay, hopefully they've asked you. And if you're not able to stay, but you really liked working for them, then all of their suggestions about networking, getting it in front of Tony so she can post in Pioneer Careers, those are all fantastic. As we mentioned earlier, I'm more likely to want to hire somebody that's a personal referral than somebody that's just an application. And since you've been working for me, I probably am going to trust who you put your name on.
Okay, we have one more. The next one says, you wake up one morning not feeling very well, but you have a big meeting at work that day. Would you call in sick? Wow.
Quite the work ethic in this room.
Try to make the meeting.
Virtual meeting. Excellent
Depends
idea
on if you're
there.
Contagious. Don't get your coworkers sick. So there's some good answers here. So consider the culture of the office. Is it possible to call in for the meeting? Could you call in and do Zoom or Skype? Is that a possibility? How much do they really need you there? How sick are you really? If you decide to call in, what does your supervisor prefer? Talk to them about that ahead of time. Should you text them? Should you email them? Should you call? Who are you calling? What time should you be emailing or calling them? What else would you want to add?
I don't want your germs, so I'm probably, if you show up and you are sick beyond just a cold, I'm going to send you home. Most of our managers will too. And there's also, in my opinion, as an intern especially, there's not a meeting that can't either be moved, done over video conference, or that is so important that you can't miss it. If it's a meeting you're running, more than likely we can reschedule it, especially if you're sick. We all get sick. We all have sick kids once in a while. We all have life things that happen. Meetings are movable in most cases, and if not, it is the 21st century. We can figure out how to use Zoom or Skype.
Awesome. Okay. So I am going to now turn it over to Tanya to talk a little bit more about their specific opportunities, because this is your chance after she's done talking about this to come talk to her about those opportunities if you're still looking for an internship for the summer. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So at Home Advisor, I actually oversee the internship program for 2 brands, a Home Advisor brand here in Denver and the Angie's List brand based out of Indianapolis. This past summer and probably for next summer, we're going to have about 50 interns that come and work split between the 2 campuses. So if you want to stay in Denver, then we have a lot of awesome opportunities spread across the business: software engineering, product management, data analytics, finance analytics, marketing, all areas of marketing. So everything from email to search engine marketing to television analytics and media planning and media buying to market research. And so all of those roles will sit in our office in Rhino, brand new office that we moved into in April. And then if you're from the Midwest and you want to head to Indianapolis, we'll have about 30 interns here, and we'll have about 20 or so interns that'll sit in Indianapolis. Most of those roles are going to be a little bit more technical and product focused, though we'll have 1 or 2 finance opportunities out there as well, and 1 or 2 marketing opportunities out there as well. We have a really awesome internship program. It is 10 weeks. It is paid. We want you to have a really awesome learning experience. So you will work on projects that are important to the business, not just a separate intern project that I know some big companies like to do, is put all the interns on one business problem and say, hey, go figure it out. You're going to actually work on whatever is happening in our business right now, well, not right now, in June, and figure out what a real day in the life of that role would be if you joined full time. And we also do a lot of extracurricular activities. So we do a lot of networking events with senior executives across the business through lunch and learns and happy hours. And then we like to go out and do baseball games or other events just to make sure that you can build those relationships as a cohort as well. And we have a pretty good track record of hiring DU students. So I have 1 student that I remember off the top of my head who was in marketing and graduated in June. And he just joined us as a marketing analyst. And we have several other DU alums in both our finance and analytics teams, accounting team, and marketing teams. So would love to talk to you more about that opportunity if you would like to learn more.
All right, let's give Tanya a hand and thank her for coming in today. So you guys are free to go or come talk to Tanya if you have questions. See you next week.